around the room, but because the gentleman over there is filming, I'm going to be nice to him. I'm going to try to hold myself still. So I'm one of your county officials. I'm not here to tell you how to vote. I'm just here to give you some perspective on why it was important for your county to put this before you to help us meet these challenges that faces us today. I can tell you that 30 years ago, when I joined the sheriff's office, there was 33,000 people in Lincoln County. Today, there's 66,000. So there's enough people that have joined our community since then that you can start down at the arch, they can hold hands, and they'll make it all the way here to Lincoln County. Now, we don't want them to do that because there's more people be following. So Lincoln County is a safe place. It's a wonderful place. I'm particularly biased to it because I was here my whole life. But also what I hear from the people that just got here, guess what they're saying about Lincoln County? Lincoln County is a wonderful place. And the reason it is because of the blood, sweat, and tears of the people that serve this community. There's a lot of people that's doing noble service as teachers, as firemen, as ambulance, as police, and sheriff's deputies. So what this is about is for our community in Lincoln County to fairly compensate our sheriff's deputies and provide them with a wage that is competitive. Now, when we say competitive, what's that mean? Well, I can tell you I was a City of Troy police officer as much as I was a sheriff's deputy. My career is split between the City of Troy and your Lincoln County Sheriff's Office. And I can tell you that when I left the Sheriff's Office the first time, I went to the City of Troy, and it was a tremendous difference. I had great benefits in terms of salary or insurance and retirement, and my salary was far greater than it was just as a sheriff's deputy. But I went from serving a population of 33,000 people in 640 square miles with 4 deputies to me and Raymond Floyd, 2 of us, with 10 square miles to worry about and about 7,000 people. You see the difference. And then what's today the difference between the City of Troy? The population in the City of Troy has changed. It's doubled as well. They got 5 police officers on the City of Troy. They're all starting at about $60,000. That's starting salary for a police officer in the City of Troy. They got great insurance, they got great retirements, and justifiably so, they should have. I appreciated that, my family appreciated that when I worked there. It's no accident that 3 out of the last 5 sheriffs of this county have come from the City of Troy. Because at the City of Troy, we believe that what affects Lincoln County affects the City of Troy. So we go to the sheriff's office to help the situation. We certainly do with all our heart. What the sheriff's deputies are doing, they also have now, we started with 4 30 years ago, we got 5 now, 66,000. So it's doubled in population, but yet we've only added 1 to the patrol. One thing else that we're doing for the community that we didn't do 30 years ago is that we have at least 1 sheriff's deputy in every 4 of the school districts in Lincoln County. During the daytime, any given day, you have 5 police officers in the City of Troy, and you have 5 sheriff's deputies in the schools of the City of Troy. So half the law enforcement in the City of Troy is your sheriff's deputies. Protecting the most valuable resource we have is our children. And I think that's important. You know what the sheriff's deputies are starting out at? $47,000. We are a Class 2 county, Warren County, that has passed the tax that we're asking for. They're starting out at $60,000. Their corrections officers are starting out at $45,000. You can go and work in the jail in Warren County and almost make by $2,000 as much money as the sheriff's deputy here is in Lincoln County starting out. Now, I don't know if you have a problem with that, but it just seems some imbalance. We ask why we are the last county in the St. Louis metro area to pass this level of tax. Even Pike County, who's just outside the metro area, has passed this tax. So Pike County is funding their sheriff's office twice the rate that we are here. It'll just like Warren County is. And you ask, why doesn't Montgomery County have this level of tax? Because there was more people in Montgomery County 50 years ago than there is today. They're not growing. The fact that we are growing in some ways is really good. And some of you would agree with me that sometimes it's bad. All right? But that's the challenge for all of us to accept as a community. That's what a community is. I tell people, taxes is a 4-letter word that's so bad it takes 5 letters to spell it. I don't want to be up here telling you that. Nobody wants to ask you for more money, but we as a community have to figure out How do we meet these challenges? How do we fairly compensate sheriff's deputies that are certainly doing the work out there for us when they're serving a population on the unincorporated areas alone is larger than the population of Warren, the whole of Warren County. That's the difference. But yet, you can go to Warren County and serve less people in a smaller geographical space and make far more money. So that's what we're talking about on competitive wage. I have a short amount of time. Some of you have seen the PowerPoint that I'm trying to explain why it's important. The city of Troy, their budget is $4 million. Guess what? Guess how much our taxes are that we support our sheriff's office? About $4 million. City of Troy has 32 employees. We have 85. How do we do it? We do it poorly. We've been doing it poorly for years and decades at the sheriff's office. This tax is meant to fix that problem and to meet the challenges. We said the federal inmates, when I was a young police officer, when I went from the city of Troy back to the sheriff's office the second time, because Dan Torres, who was a Troy city officer, became sheriff, and he said, please help me help us. So I did. I made a tremendous sacrifice for my family to leave the city of Troy, to go back to the sheriff's office just to help this community. We made the decision at the time to start housing federal inmates. We went into business with the federal government to offset the cost so that we don't have to use that word taxes. It did work for a few years. It did get better. But we knew in 2010 when we lost that contract, we went from over 50 deputies to 37 deputies, and every deputy that worked there had to take a pay cut because the money went away. John Cottle became sheriff, and he's fighting that fight, trying to get those numbers up. And they actually got to the point that jail was only built for 120. We actually repurposed space, and there's 212 beds in there today. But at the time he was sheriff, at the maximum, there was 260 inmates in that jail. They were sleeping on the floors. So that's why in 2017, he asked you for this tax, the same tax that we're asking for then. But at that time, the strategy was to build a bigger jail to house more federal inmates to do what we're trying to accomplish today. It's like a reverse strategy. But what we didn't know then, that we do now, is that the federal government has decided that they don't have an endless bucket of money. Believe it or not, your federal government has figured that out. So they're cutting back. I know it's a surprise, but it's true. Turn your TV on, do some reading, but it's true. So they're pulling back. No matter who won the last of their presidential election, they were going to do it. If you paid attention, what did they do right after the last election? They announced the closure of 7 federal prisons. They're not building prisons, they're closing them. Why? They want to end mass incarceration. Why? Because it doesn't really work. Social science says so, and whether you agree with that or not, it does cost a heck of a lot of money. And we as a people in this country, in this state, in this community, don't have that kind of money to put that many people behind jail. All right? We just don't. So they said, we're going to stop it. When I was a kid in the 80s, I felt like I lived in a safe community. So the science says they want to bring it back down, the incarceration rate back down to the 80s. And that's where it is. And the rest of what you and I may consider the civilized world, England, Canada, that's where they are. Where we're at and we'll still are is we're in line with Russia, Cuba, those kind of countries. That's where we are. So the logic says it costs a lot of money and it'll lead us to work, we're going to bring it down. So we was in business with the federal government to do that. Today we went from the average, when John Cottle was sheriff, to 104 inmates. Today there's 59 in there today, right? If you see the track, and I can show you if I have my PowerPoint, but as you can see the line going down, John and I had this discussion. We thought it was COVID. John said, well, if they stop arresting them for one thing, they'll just find something else to arrest them. For you Republicans, well, January 6th, maybe they did, but that's a short term. Some people say, well, the immigrants, we'll just start housing them. Well, they was requiring us to house immigrants here, as the illegal immigrants. It was going to cost our county more money than we were going to make, so we stopped doing it. And believe it or not, working with ICE is not good business because they don't like to pay their bills. Believe it or not. All right, so we just don't do that as a country, as a community anymore, and a lot of other places don't for the same reason. But I know my crowd, I know my group, and I want to treat you special. So I'm going to show you something. If I can get this done without getting upset. I'm gonna pick some scabs. But I'm gonna show you something I've never showed anybody before. We're gonna talk about cost. What does this cost? What's the price we're willing to pay? You Iraq, Afghanistan vets, do you know what this is? That's right. What does soldiers wear this to protect themselves and stay alive on the battlefield? There is a lot of bullets flying in Lincoln County. I'm a grandfather, I'm over 50 years old. You know how we do it? We say, back in the day when it was hard, you know, maybe I was handwriting my police work and we faced our share of dangers, but I promise you it's harder today. This is the plate that Deputy Wagner was wearing 2 years ago when he was shot. Close range with birdshot, but any of you ballistics experts know what that does. At close range birdshot, it acts like a slug. 16 of the pellets got past this plate. 8 in his arm, 8 in his chest. One fraction of an inch from his heart that would have killed him. He told me yesterday, when I told him I was going to tell this story, and I asked for his permission to tell it. He said when a doctor looked at it last week, the doctor said, "You were very lucky." And I don't know if you have Jesus in your heart, and I don't know if you believe in miracles, but we didn't pay for that. You and I didn't pay for that. He did himself because he saw what was facing him in this community. There was 4 deputies standing within close proximity to him. The deputy that got shot had that plate because he was scared enough and wise enough to know that one day he might need it. What if one of the other deputies was shot? See that deputy back behind you? She was behind him. They figured it out, based on positioning, that if he hadn't taken that hit, it would have hit her in the face. I've buried 3 deputies, 1 to cancer, 1 to heart problems, and 1 a drunk driver killed him. That plate's the only reason that we didn't bury 4. Now, you may not agree that these deputies deserve a fair wage, but you deserve their respect. They deserve their respect. Because in spite of how you feel about them, they love you, and they're willing to give their life for you. Deputy Boschert, that girl right there, 2 life-saving medals. Medal of Valor. And she's a single mother with 2 kids. If we don't owe her a fair wage, I want you to join me and at least give her a round of applause because we owe her that. Thank you. Sorry, folks. It's emotional. I love you. I love this community. And I love those deputies.